All right, we are live. Just give it a couple of seconds here as folks may join or may not. We'll see. It's all right. We're going live, so it'll be fun. I wanted to take a moment here and share some thoughts on the AI Pulse report. This is a report that we published about a couple weeks ago. You'll find it up at octopus.com/publications. You can download it now. And the AI Pulse report, we've been talking about it for a while. In fact, we actually hosted a webinar earlier this week. Myself, Steve, and Charlotte were on this webinar where we talked a little bit about the Pulse report. It's good. It's chock full of all kinds of interesting information, lots of really great insights there to share. And you can download it today. It's available through our publications page, as I mentioned earlier. But the reason why I wanted to hop on here is just to kind of highlight some of the things that I think have been lost in the discussion around this. There's a lot of information in here, and it's worth highlighting some of the things that jumped out to me. So the Pulse report is about 57 pages. There's lots and lots of pros in here and lots of data. We can go through it together. But some of the things that I thought were most important, obviously, are highlighted here in the executive summary. So to begin with, obviously at a top level, we're seeing this all together right now. So in the industry as a whole today, what we're seeing is we're seeing a lot of folks who are basically joining the industry right out of graduation, right out of university, etc., and they're having trouble landing a role. I don't know if this has been your experience or not, but from what I'm hearing anecdotally, there's a lot of folks who are graduating out of university with comp sci degree, and they're finding it really hard to find roles. And so one of the things that we highlighted in the report itself is the fact that obviously as we adopt AI and as we're starting to go through phase one, phase two of this sort of experimental phase and into the junior hiring freeze, we're seeing a lot of folks who aren't getting picked up. Now, the key differentiator here worth mentioning is that if you're a junior developer today and you have any skills whatsoever in Claude or in Gemini, if you've built out skills and you're generating code, maybe you're executing a Ralph loop and doing iterative processes of your AI workflows to generate code, you're doing Copilot integration, whatever, you already have a huge advantage, I think, in this space today. And I think you should take this more as an opportunity to get noticed by employers. This is really where I think a lot of difference will be made. And this is some of the things that we mentioned in the AI Pulse report as an example, looking at this. So phase one, obviously, is where we were. That was in our experimentation, where we were trying to kind of kick the tires, if you will, of everything that's going on in the AI space. And we're trying to assess its impact on the industry. Going forward in phase two, where we're moving into, the trend that we're seeing now, right now, is the fact that juniors aren't getting hired. So, take that for what it is. But like I said, you can differentiate yourself. The thing that's interesting about this is, of course, something that we identify, which is in phase three, when if you don't have a lot of juniors coming into the industry, where are your seniors coming from? So, if you have no seniors, then you're going to find it really tough to maintain the solutions you're building out with these solutions. And so I would encourage organizations to take this into account when looking at folks for hiring, etc. So as I said, the Pulse report has been available. We've been talking about it extensively, but I think those are the things that are really useful. We cited other reports as well. So we have this cross-reference, if you will, of other reports. So we cited the 2025 AI at Work report that talks about the executive perspective on AI adoption. So in particular, we have things like, how are executives getting skilled up on this sort of thing? So this formal AI training, whether or not it's critical to success, etc. So at a top level, a lot of people do care about this, and we're seeing some adoptions there. And this is present in tools like GitHub, for example, which is what we cite in the report. And if you talk to any execs that are talking about AI right now, they're seeing that a 50% productivity gain, even if it means reducing headcount, there's a lot of actual traction with that philosophy. Whereas 33% of the executives that were surveyed prefer to keep colleagues even if less productive. So top level down, this is obviously something that a lot of developers have to care about. And so by going through this report here, we touch on some of these things. Again, these are some of the things that we touched on in the webinar that we did as part of this. So as I said earlier, we highlighted some of these realities for a lot of developers going forward. And some of the ones that we highlight, of course, is that the vast majority of you are using AI for work. So 90% of tech professionals are using it. The trust for these solutions is rising. I don't know about you, but I'm using Claude almost hourly now, if not daily. And Claude is my tool of choice. I have used ChatGPT, Gemini, etc. We've got Anti-Gravity installed, got Cursor installed, using Visual Studio through Copilot. There's a lot of trust going into these solutions going forward. And so I think that trust level is just going to blow itself out of the water. In addition to that, 58% believe that they are faster when using AI tools. That has certainly been the case. However, as we see in the industry, there are reports that have come out that cite the fact that these tools have a tendency to hallucinate from time to time. So you have to be careful about their usage and how you incorporate them. So, like I said, the report itself goes through in a lot of detail about how these things can be used and where you can use them inside your pipeline. So at Octopus, we think very carefully about things like how you can utilize tooling to help better the deployment process. So as an example here, if we fire up the samples instance, you can visit this by going to samples.octopus.app, and you see a page that looks like this. You can access this without an account, by the way, so you can access it with a guest account. But one of the things that we've looked at from an integration perspective in terms of AI usage is directly through the product. So if we scroll down here, we have a failed deployment here. This is the UI, by the way, if you haven't seen Octopus before. But one of the things we try and do is we try and surface this out through the tool itself. So we have this feature here called the recovery agent. And what that does is it basically looks at all the audit trail of everything that executed before. And if it didn't execute well, why didn't it execute? And what were some of the reasons on that reason and how to fix that. And so it's kind of interesting from that. But jumping back to the report, like when we think about the pipeline of stuff that goes in, a lot of people are front loading this in CI. They're doing this for code gens, for running tests, etc. And so you got to be really careful about how you're incorporating this, because I've seen reports from security companies where they're seeing things like a lot of security vulnerabilities that are being introduced by Claude, by Gemini, by other tools as well, Codex, for example. So it's something to think about. And I think the high order bit, the hard part is being left till last, which is typically the deployment side, because there's lots of infrastructure to be accounted for. We do talk about that in the report itself. So in the report, we talk about where folks are currently focused on the AI side of things versus where the developers actually need the tool to be. So writing repetitive code, generating tests, for example, simple refactoring, these are the commonplace ones. But realistically, it's what the seniors want are things like being able to provision environments, utilizing infrastructure effectively, writing and also maintaining your tests. And so if you just go on the list of everything that senior developers want, this is really where developers are going to spend a lot of their time utilizing these tools. And so I think that there's a lot of hype around vibe coding at the moment, which is fine. That's, it's not like we have a lot of developers. We need more developers. But being able to utilize these tools in an effective manner turns out to be pretty important. And so this is part of what we talk about in the report itself. So as a whole, I think the AI Pulse report does a really good job of setting the stage of where we're at as an industry and what the reality is for folks who are coming into the industry. As I said before, juniors are facing a pretty daunting task. But like I said, it's a tool. And if you're a junior today coming out of high school or coming out of university, getting to know these tools and using them effectively will definitely give you a massive leg up in terms of getting hired. And so I would definitely encourage anyone who's looking at this space right now to go ahead and do that. As I said before, you can download the Pulse report now. It's available up on our website. It's at /publications. And you can download it for free for now. And it's a PDF, and you can just download and utilize it and in your conversations with folks. And hopefully you'll get something out of it. And just thought I'd share some thoughts and opinions here. Thanks a lot.